So I bought other PlayStation 5s that were in a house fire, but nothing compared to this. Let me show you. This one is next level. Firstly, we have the top cover, and it is completely melted along the edges. It's really like, I think it might be still functional, but this is pretty bad, but it gets way worse. This thing is just totally melted. At least the plastics of it. This is as far as I've opened it. I opened it up just to check after I got it and make sure it is what it was supposed to be, but I haven't looked at it other than that. Let's take a look at the bottom here. Okay, and that bottom side is definitely melted, not as bad. Look at this though. Wow, that is just totally charred. That is crazy. So obviously this thing is broken, but we're gonna find out today if I can fix it. Down inside here, we've got parts. Let's see if we have all the parts we need for this thing. Just totally melted. How do these look? That ribbon cable doesn't look the best. These ones look burned, but that end doesn't look very good. We're going to be replacing some parts for sure. Fan cover. These must be the screws here. Yep, bag of screws. And a couple other pieces. So obviously this thing has been taken apart before. So let's take it apart and assess it ourselves. Okay, do we have any screws in here? None for the fan. Let's see if, does the fan come out? I don't know if I can get the fan out. Oh, almost. There we go. This is the first time I've seen a fan like this. We've got blades here and blades here. Is that a new fan revision? That's interesting. This is a Foxconn PVB120L12-P01. That's cool. And it actually, I mean, as far as I can tell, the fan might be functional. Okay. This is a PS5 from the UK, so that could be, you know, we might see some changes because of that. Oh, we got one screw over here. It's the only screw I see in this thing so far. I'm still amazed at how melted this thing is. And that screw does not turn. Let's see if it comes out. Oh yeah, it'll come off with that screw in there. Okay, so this, wow, it's just completely melted. That screw is totally bent. I wonder, one thing that would actually be really cool is if we could fix this thing and put it together in the same case. I don't know if that's even possible. It's in pretty bad shape, but let's just see if we might happen to be able to do that. This piece just stayed on there. I'm gonna leave it on there. Oh man, so this was just torn off the board. That's a bummer. I mean, we can fix it, but that was just kind of from a careless teardown. Oh, we'll worry about that later. We can fix that. Finally down to a screw we actually have to remove. There we go. Now we can get the disk drive. Oh, and one more. Okay, now the disk drive can come out, and we'll have to take this apart to look at the inside. The outside doesn't look too bad, actually, so maybe some hope there. Got a bunch of damage on the board over here, but I don't know, just cleaning might clean that up. I don't know, do we dare send this over to Robert at Restorish? He's working on a big cleaning project right now, so he might get angry at me if I try to send this to him. Or go give it to him. Okay. Yeah, so this is one of the newer revisions. That plate looks fine. And actually the board underneath here That doesn't look bad so far. I am a little worried about the power supply, but let's get this clamp off and we can get this board out and have a look at the other side. So far, I mean, obviously the case is super damaged, the plastics, but inside it's not really that bad. Okay, so now let's see if we can get this board out without doing any damage to anything. Okay, here we go. And I can't believe there's not more damage on this board. We definitely have some liquid metal we got to worry about. We got to get this all cleaned up. But other than that, I think that's probably from shipping since it wasn't clamped down. I got a bunch on here too. Let's tear this down to the power supply because we got to inspect that. You have to see if there's any liquid damage on this thing. Got some more liquid metal over here. This obviously needs to be cleaned. Okay. And our heatsink. The screws have been taken out of this. Normally this would be attached to that over that last plate I took off. The heatsink definitely needs some cleaning. Got lots going on there. Okay, now let's have a look at this power supply. And initially, I mean, the plug is just destroyed, just totally melted. And this kind of thing, I wouldn't want to just kind of break this melted plastic off and then sell it or anything. If I do that to keep it in this shape and kind of melted shape, I would just probably just keep it around the office because that could create a danger there. But just from the outside, this power supply looks okay. It's kind of strange to hear myself say that, but... And then we obviously have lots going on in here, lots of things that need to be cleaned. I don't know if this shell is savable. We have this LED diffuser right here. We've got this antenna right here, but I still kind of want to see if we can save it. I think that could be a really cool looking PlayStation 5. So the other option we have with this is I could replace the main shell and then just clean up this top plate really well and try and use this top plate on the new shell. That also could be a really cool look because then the internals would still be in good condition and it'd be easy to put together and make sure everything works properly, but then you'd still have kind of like the burned look from this top plate. Unfortunately, the seller didn't have the bottom plate. I think they said it was too damaged and they threw it away, but this could make a really cool look. So I think even if we can't do the whole thing, I think we could at least use this for that. But let's get started on the cleaning and repairs, and then we'll decide on this later. So I guess we might as well start at the power supply. I'm going to try and chip away some of this burned plastic, and then I'll plug it in and see if we even get voltage out of this power supply. This plastic is kind of melted around that connector, that pin right there. That's chipping away okay though. Now I'm going to clean these pins off with some isopropyl alcohol. No, that's actually not looking too bad. Okay, got that IPA dried. Now I'm going to plug this in and see if we get any voltage out. All right, hopefully nothing explodes. Here we go. Good so far. Okay, let's see what we get on these output pins. And we get 12 volts. This power supply, at least just out on its own, works fine. Sometimes power supplies can fail under load, so that's always a possibility, but at least so far it looks good. Like I said, if I decide to sell this, I will either replace this outer piece right here, or just replace the entire power supply just to be safe. But I might just have to keep this one. It'd be a good studio piece. Now next, let's have a look at this disk drive and see if there's any liquid damage on the inside or fire damage. I haven't seen much liquid damage on this console so far, so I'm hopeful that we don't have any of that. There may be a little bit on the board, but we'll get to that in a minute too. Okay, now we can get that out and have a look on the inside. Actually, I can't believe how good this looks. We do have one. This has some major melting right over here. So this whole piece is melted up and kind of like shrunk. It's supposed to go down in that groove right there. So that's definitely a problem. I'm going to take this ribbon cable, or this 4-wire cable off so we can pull this out. This PS5 must have gotten really hot. Okay, now we need to take the screws off from the other side. You can see if there's anything else melted in here. All right, here we go. And, oh yeah. Wow, look at that, so wavy. So much melting going on in here. I'm not sure this disk drive is going to be savable. That just looks crazy. Never seen anything like that before. So the main thing is we need to be able to save this daughter board because this is paired to the motherboard. Luckily, it looks like, from what I can tell, it looks like it's fine. But we'll have to clean this up and just double check that. But I was hopeful on this, but man, this is just totally melted. Let's take these 4 screws off and see what it looks like under this metal plate. See if there's anything else melted in here. It wouldn't surprise me if there was, that's for sure. Okay, and here we go. Yep, more, well, sort of more melting. This is a part, this is the same pieces on the other side. It looks like the laser itself, the laser carrier and everything, that all looks fine. This screw is definitely, this screw post is melted, same with that one. They're kind of angled funny. Yeah, that doesn't work. So this whole entire drive is toast. I think the laser probably is usable. Same with like this spindle and a few other parts. So there's definitely good parts in here, but overall, it is not in great shape. So let's just remove this board and we will get a donor disk drive and attach the board to the donor disk drive, and then it should work just fine in this PlayStation 5. There we go. And I will write that this is the original just so we don't get it confused if we get another disk drive in here. I've done that more than once. Okay, now let's have a little closer look at this board. I don't know how hot this thing got, but it got pretty warm judging by how much stuff is melted. I haven't seen anywhere so far on the actual board that's melted. So that gives me some hope, because if the board itself got too hot, then all the solder balls under these BGA chips could have melted, but I don't see anything that indicates that the board got hot enough to melt anything like that. Because if it would have gotten that hot, then these plastic pieces would be melted, just a lot more would be melted. So I'm not too worried about that. These ports need to be cleaned. This HDMI port, I don't know if that'll be cleanable or if we will need to replace that, but let's give it a try and start getting this gunk out and see what it looks like. Use my dental pick here, get as much of the chunky stuff out as I can. And then I'll come with a toothbrush and some isopropyl alcohol and clean it out more. It's going to be kind of difficult because we need to make sure the pins are very clean and not oxidized or anything like that. Same with this USB port over here. Get a thinner dental pick to get in there. Now the toothbrush with the isopropyl alcohol. That actually looks a lot better. I think that might be just fine. We need to do that with all the rest of these ports and get all the rest of this stuff cleaned out that we can. I did just notice that we need a new CMOS battery here. That's no problem. We can pull that from a donor board. These ports actually turned out pretty good. Let's get this liquid metal cleaned up off of here. That's not going to work to have that on here for sure. Got a little bit up under this piece right here, so we got to get all of that off of there. I keep getting more out from under this kind of shield right here, and that's a little worrisome because if it got under this BGA chip, the APU, that could be a problem, especially if somebody tried to turn it on with that under there. That could be a problem. So I think what I'm going to do is use some BW100 and try and spray it out. See if that'll work. It'll go to another part of the board, but I don't really care about that. I just need to make sure it's out of underneath the APU, or right around it anyway. So okay, that seems to be working, I think. Yes, that worked great. Got a tiny little bit right down in here left. And got it. Okay, I think we're good now. Oh, got some more down here. We have to make sure every bit of this is off, because if there's little balls of liquid metal rolling around, they could touch two of the wrong points and just short something out. And that could short out the entire board and make it not work. So it's essential that we get every bit of this off of the board. Luckily, the main spill was just over here, so haven't really seen any other spills along the rest of it. So I want to make sure and also get it off out of this sponge right here, as much as I can anyway. That'll just help prevent it from going all over in the future. Okay, and what do you know? More cleaning to do. This stuff's coming up really not too bad though. So, gonna give it a nice soak and then clean it off with some cotton swab and paper towel. Just that little bit got a lot of it. This part is a lot worse than some of the rest of the board because it's exposed, so it's exposed right to anything that comes in contact with it. So When I first saw this PS5, I was not sure that I was going to be able to fix this one. And I didn't have a lot of hope at first looking at the melted plastic on the outside, but man, looking at this board, I think it's possibly doable. See if we can scrape it. Yeah, we can scrape some of this and scrape it off. Okay, that'll help get some of this off. It doesn't have to be perfect, and these little spots really don't matter that much, but it will make it look a lot better. So I'm just going to go through and scrape a bunch of it off and make it look better. Not essential, but not difficult, and makes the work look better. So it's worth doing, in my opinion. Yeah, look how much better that's looking. Okay, I think that's about the perfect amount of scrubbing and cleaning on this part. It's not perfect, but it looks pretty good, especially compared to what we started with. Now, I think the next thing we need to do is get this fan connector fixed. Now, luckily we do have the old one, so we don't need to steal it off of a different PS5. It does come off, it's not melted. Got a bunch of the traces that are still stuck on this one, but that doesn't really matter. We're gonna need to rebuild those. So let's get that done next, and then we will move on. So for this repair, I'm gonna try something I have not done before, and that is, since we do have these pads that go onto the board that fit perfectly, I'm gonna try and remove them from here, install them back onto the board, probably glue them down, and then I will need to create a solder connection from this part of the pad to this part of the pad. And then we also need to do the same thing with this middle pad right here. Put this back and then glue it down. And then we'll try and solder it all together and see what happens. I've never done this before, so this should be interesting. First thing we need to do though is remove these pads from this connector, and then we can try and install them onto the board. So to do that, I'm gonna use my Hakko Omnivice. I'm gonna set it up like this, so it's in approximately the same orientation. And then we'll put this inside and clamp it down. That way I can be using two of my hands to do the work with the iron and my tweezers. All right. I'm going to use my iron, and I will start up my fume extractor to keep all the fumes going into the extractor and not my lungs. So what I want to do is heat this from the bottom side just enough to lift it, and then hopefully I will be able to install it back onto the board. Come on. I also don't want to melt the plastic, so hopefully this will work. Might need to put some flux on here just to... Oh, there we go. Got it. Okay, that worked okay. So that would go right there. All right, this will be a tricky one. Let's see if I can get you focused in here. This will be a tricky one because it's got both of these pads right here. I kind of need to heat them both at the same time. There we go. Okay, there's that one. And now this one. Come on. And there we go. Okay. That one there. Okay. Now we need to glue these down. I think I'm just going to start with super glue. And maybe that's all we'll need. I also need to bend this I need to bend both of these so they'll actually stay down and not pull up like they're doing right now. I don't have the rest of this pad, but I don't think I'll really need it. I think I can connect the back part of the pin on the fan connector just fine right there. So, okay, let's get out the super glue and see what we can do. So first what we need is the tiniest drop. So I'm going to get some on my dental pick. Actually, I'm going to put some on this paper towel. Just nab a little bit with my dental pick. Get it on the board. Okay. Should be enough for this first one. Okay, that actually seems pretty good. Okay, so we've got this first one installed. I think that's going to work fine. Now I've just got to get the rest of these on here. This method's working pretty good. Just getting a little reservoir on my paper towel right here, and then using my dental pick to spread it onto the board and the pad. Just need a tiny bit on each of these, so. Okay. That one's going to need some more. All right. There we go. That's looking better. Just going to hold some pressure on this with one hand while we get some more super glue with the other one. And we're going to glue on this next mounting pin right over here. Okay, there's that. Oh, need a little bit more there. There we go. Okay, looking good so far. Now we need to do the one with two legs. Okay, looking good. You'd be able to hold both of these legs down kind of at the same time to make sure they get in the right place. Okay. Now I just need to sit here and watch glue dry for a little while. Ah, the exciting life of a YouTuber. Okay, now we just need to let this fully cure, and then we need to come in and make sure all of these pads are connected to the rest of the board, the rest of the layers on the board. So we'll need to connect this, and then this one is actually connected fine. This one is connected fine. This will need to scrape away some of the solder mask from here and here, and then create a solder bridge between the two. After that, then we can come in with some solder mask and cover it all back up. Then we can connect our connector, and that'll probably even add some extra solder mask around just to make sure it's nice and solid and secure. But right now we gotta let this dry, so we'll come back once it's dry. And now all of our super glue is nice and dry, so I'm gonna take my grinding pen and grind off some of the solder mask around the edges, so then we can solder all of the pads fully together and fully onto the circuit they need to be soldered to. For example, this one right here, we need to grind off all of this green solder mask, and then we can use some solder to connect those two planes. So we'll start right over here. So this is definitely going to be a problem. I need to get underneath this just a little bit to make sure we can get a good connection. Okay, that should do. Same with this. This is not the best. We got some green solder mask here I have to get off, so this will connect all the way. Okay, so we need to solder anywhere that you see the copper, so we're going to solder all of this. I did grind off some of these places where these circuit traces were bent, because that can cause like a crack in the copper, so I'm just going to put some solder on those just to make sure that these traces are nice and strong. So now I'm going to flux this all up, then we'll get the solder applied, then we'll do more solder mask, and then we'll finally install the connector. And we're just going to put a bunch of flux on this. It'll need a lot. All right, and here we go. Oh, that super glue didn't last very long on that. I thought it would glue better than that. There we go, that's what we need right there. Got a nice good connection there. I'd like to get a good amount on this. That's going to be hard to, yeah, there we go, that's good. And then these parts are just where those little cracks are, or were. So they don't need to have a ton of solder on them, but I want some on there just to help strengthen that part of it. Okay, not pretty, but good. So I need to clean that off. Just use some isopropyl alcohol. And it needs to be nice and clean in order for any of the solder mask to stick. I'm actually tempted to solder the connector on first. I think I might do that. I'm going to solder the connector on first, and then we'll do the solder mask after the connector. So what I'm going to do is apply plenty of flux on the pads, like I did before. There we go. Fume extractor on. So I'm going to line this up about where it needs to be. About right there looks pretty good. I need to make sure that there's enough of this pad back here to connect to this pin, and there is right now, so I need to keep it that way, and I think we're good to go. So I'm going to push down with my finger with this thing fully aligned and try to not burn my finger while I add solder to these pins. There we go. Okay, good there. Now this mounting pin over here. There we go. This mounting pin over here, I need to twist this just a little bit, get a better angle on it. I'm gonna keep some pressure down. Oh, need to twist it more. All right, now I'm gonna keep some pressure down on the connector. Oh yeah. There we go. All right. I'm going to do a little bit more on these pins back here. I feel like they didn't get quite enough solder on them. I think they're fine, but I just want to make sure. There we go. Same with this one. Good, good. Okay, much better. Now I'm going to clean that all off, and then we will put conformal coating all around this whole thing to help strengthen it, and then we should be ready to go. Now before we cover this all up with conformal coating, let's make sure that we have connections where we need to. So this pin needs to connect with this pin, and it does. This pin with this pin, and it does. These pins, actually I think these pins are ground. Yep, good there. And then let's make sure that that this pin is not connected to ground. It is not, and it is not. Okay, so we should be good there, and now we can finish cleaning and apply the perfect amount of conformal coating. Let that dry, and then we'll be ready to move on. I just want to give it a little bit more of a cleaning. We did pretty good on it, but let's just make sure it's really clean. Conformal coating is just going to work a lot better if everything's nice and clean. Now let's apply the conformal coating. I like this because it's nice and fluid, so it'll also flow under the connector, and this actually acts as an adhesive too, so it'll help keep the connector stuck down to the board. So I'm going to come in with a liberal amount. Just get it right along that whole connector. Okay, and then I'm going to put it up so it's sort of level, and then let it dry like that. There we go. Now just got to let it dry, and then we can install this board. While that's drying, let's decide what to do with the case. So just looking at this shell, unfortunately, there's just no way we're going to be able to use this piece for sure. It's just too melted. There's just no way we'll be able to keep the whole PlayStation 5 together if we use this piece. So this definitely is out. And I was trying to figure out if there's a way we could still keep and use this piece, but unfortunately, I don't think we can. This part, if this was all together and not melted quite so much, I think we could, but this is just totally brittle and fragile. It's already broken. I would really like to. I think that could be really cool. I wonder if we could get this piece off. I doubt it. No, that's just totally melted together right there. So I don't think there's going to be a way that we can use any of this shell. I think what I'm going to do is use the shell from a donor console, and then we'll put the burned plates on that. So that's the plan. Let's get a donor console, and then we'll install the motherboard into that along with the disk drive board. Then we'll put the burn plates on that and see how it looks. All right, so here is our donor PlayStation 5. It is the same model. I had to get the same model just so that board will fit in. They had a number of different models of original PlayStation 5 before the Slim came out, so have to make sure that's the same. I really wanted to try and get this thing working just with all the original burned pieces, but I mean, I want it to function as a PlayStation 5, so in order to be able to do that, I think this is going to be the only good option. It will make things go a little faster as well, which is nice, but fast isn't always the best if you're trying to do something that looks cool. So I just need to get it apart enough to get the board out of it, and we'll just leave the power supply installed and everything since we'll use that. Okay, so now the mid frame can come off, and then, yep, we've got good ribbon cables, that's good. So let's just disconnect this first, and then this. This will be good too because we need new ribbon cables, so we'll do this in a minute, replace that daughter board on there. That, and this, and then the antennas. Okay, I have had this taken apart before. I don't know what I did to it, or maybe it came this way. I don't even remember. But it definitely has been apart before. Now this plate can come off, and we will reinstall that later. Then, of course, the clamp. And now we can remove the board. There we go. Got to get these prongs here for the power supply. They stick in there pretty tight. There we go. Okay. So there is the board from the donor console. And now we're ready to install this board once that conformal coating dries. Okay, our conformal coating is getting dry. It's not totally dry, but it's enough to stay in place. So we can get that out of the way. And we have our donor frame right here. I say frame, but we are going to be using the power supply and the fan and the heatsink and everything on this. So I could use the heatsink from the melted PlayStation 5, but it's going to take a ton of cleaning, and I want this to be good to go and work for a long time. So I want to make sure that we use all the best parts we have for it. So here we have some good liquid metal. I need to clean this up and apply a little bit more liquid metal here, and then we can install the motherboard into this donor PlayStation 5 frame. All right, now first things first, we got to get all of this old nasty liquid metal off of here. It's just balling up and rolling around. Okay, so let's see if we can get it on our pick. Oh, almost. There we go. Oh, dropped it right on the board. Come on now. There we go. There's more there. And I mostly want to remove this because it's got a bunch of debris in it. I don't know if it really shows up very well on camera, but it's not clean liquid metal. So I just want to clean this all up as good as I can get it down in here. Get any of that debris off. Then we need to clean up the APU as good as we can get it as well. And we need to get any of this that is about to leave the sponge area. Make sure that it's not going to drip onto the board at any point. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I'm going to come through and just rub the APU, the top of it. Make sure and get it nice and clean. Then we'll apply the brand new liquid metal. I think I've still got some in this syringe, but let's see. Oh, yep, there's a lot. Don't need quite that much. Okay, let's try that much. Now I'm just going to go through and just keep doing what I'm doing. Press with medium force while I rub it around the APU. And eventually, it will start sticking. And I'm going to add a little bit more. Got to make sure there's plenty on here. There we go. Now that we have the perfect amount of liquid metal on the APU and the perfect amount of liquid metal on the heatsink, we can install the board and move on. I'm going to rub this in really good over here just to make sure that there's no oxidation and we got it spread nice and evenly. That's looking pretty good. Okay, there we go. And now we can install the board just like that. All right, and there we go. Then the clamp. Now the Wi-Fi antenna cables can go on, at least partially. Let's get these cables installed, then we can install that top plate. There we go. Okay, all right, and with those screws in, now we can affix the antennas. One there, the blue one down here. It is marked on the board where they go. And the black one up here. And the white one down here. Okay, now we need to install the disk drive, but we have to swap this board that's matched with the motherboard into this disk drive first. I really wish they wouldn't marry these. It's kind of ridiculous that they do, but I guess I can sort of understand, but it would be really nice if they didn't. Make repair much easier. All right. There we go. And now I'm going to save this board with the donor board in case I ever get around to fixing that one. Then we will have that ready to go. This needs to be cleaned. We'll clean that afterward, I guess. Okay, now we're ready to install this back together. That didn't totally make sense, but you know what I mean. Okay, that's all together, and now we can install it into the PlayStation 5. I'm getting excited to see if this thing's gonna work. I feel like it shouldn't work because this board was just, had to have gotten so hot, but I don't know, I'm actually a little hopeful. Okay, so we need to make sure, oh, we gotta clean this up real quick. Clean this part of the board, especially this connector. That's actually cleaning up pretty good. It's a little worried at first, but I think it's gonna be fine. Okay. That clipped in good. Good to hear. This one feels good. Now this one is the part that we repaired. All right. That also feels good. Okay, all good so far. Now the mid frame. Here we go. Okay, and the fan goes in next, and we'll connect this, put this black cover piece over it, and now all we have to do is install a whole bunch of screws. And now the fan cage. And the M.2 cover. And of course the grill. Okay, let's leave the final reveal until after we test it. I'm gonna get it plugged in. Let's see if it works after all that work. Okay, power's plugged in. HDMI cable going in now. Let's see what happens. Do we have disk drive power? We do, good news. Fan comes on. We have a black screen, but is it gonna give us anything? Oh yeah, can you believe this thing's actually working? What? All right, got the controller hooked up, everything's looking good. Let's put the plates on and get the final look at this Housefire PlayStation 5. So for the bottom cover, this is what I'm gonna use. This is off of another Housefire PS5 repair that I did a while back. And I put brand new plates on that one, but I did save this, and this is the perfect one for it since this one didn't come with the bottom plate. So let's get that on first. I'm so excited about this. This is gonna look so cool. I mean, hopefully. Okay, there we go on that one. Now the top one is next. This is amazing. Let's see if it fits on here. It totally does. So this is the final look of this Housefire PlayStation 5. Look at that. I think probably what we need to do at some point is like put a clear coating on this or something, because it does have a bit of a smoke smell. But really, this looks super cool. Thanks so much for watching today, and I hope you have a good one.